Hello, hello. Welcome to the Mystic Path. This will be your full moon in Capricorn on July 3rd reading. It is a super moon. And as always, the Mystic Cat is under my feet. He may come up at any time to participate. Sometimes he likes to do that to bring forth certain messages. He is very intuitive himself. Okay, so that little disclaimer, there's like cat here because he's been already up and down as I was making my notes and channeling. All right, today I've already got the cards out here for full moon in Capricorn. The end of a tough cycle approaches. There are no accidents, so I said rough because maybe some of you watching have been in a rough cycle. The other one, emotions are running high. Okay, super moon. All right, those are from the, the Moonology deck. We will also read from Nadine Jane's Magic Days book. We'll read what it says about the full moon, and it also usually has like a ritual and a mantra you can do. I also took, you can see several pages of notes, 3.5 pages. So a lot to discuss, okay? We're in July, happy July. Right now we're in Cancer season, then we'll move into Leo season. Happy birthday to all of the Cancerians and Leos. I am a Leo, so I too will be gaining another year of experience this month. So let's just get into it, okay? I've already called in my team and any of those of you watching's teams who want to participate in a positive manner for growth. I've cleansed the space, I've protected the space, I have some candles going. We're going to pull some earth energy, the Amanda Ellis Metatron system of color essential oil sprays. Smells very good. This is the earth element, ground. Going to just get in that energy. Yes, it's funny. Yesterday, I energetically woke up with like, total scattered energy. And I was having trouble even sitting in my own energy. Because my aura was just like, I could feel everything. I could feel the world, the chaos, the earth, the animals, the people around me, right? It can get overwhelming at times. And I will admit, this past week, I wasn't great about cleaning my energy multiple times a day. I always clean it at least in the morning when I get up and at night before I go to bed. But usually, if I've had a lot of interactions with people, or it's a day like yesterday was where I'm particularly sensitive and I can feel a lot of things happening in the world, right? Okay, sorry. I was getting in a message right there in the middle. Okay. So anyway, usually when that's happening, I can still feel my own energy, and then I can use my tools and follow that vibration of my own energy and purge out all the other energies, right? And because I had gotten busy with work, last week I was only cleaning my energy in the morning when I got up and at night. And I was having a lot of interactions with the world around me. So I was picking up things and feeling others, right? And yeah, I was distracted, so I wasn't cleaning it as well as I normally do. Normally I do it like 3 or 4 times a day, especially like in business. If I have to go to an event where there's a lot of people, or I have to go to a business meeting where there's like 5 or 6 people, right? As soon as I leave, I'll clear out my energy just in case anything they have going on was like trying to get in or attached to me or whatever. So, like I said, I just had a lot going on, and there were a lot of distractions this week, so I wasn't as diligent. So then I woke up yesterday and I could barely even find my own energy. So what I usually do, which is find my own energy, focus on it, meditate on it, expand it, push out the other energies, right? Well, I couldn't even hardly find it yesterday. So first thing I did, got down to the ground, right? I connected with the earth, connected with my guides, grounded, started, I burned some Palo Santo, which we have here. I used some protection sprays. I put some crystals on. I cleaned my entire environment, right? Energetically. I cleaned my entire space energetically. And then I did yoga after all of that. So I spent a good 3.5 hour period tending to myself, right? Which I normally don't have to do, but because I wasn't tending to myself in little moments throughout the week, those little moments all stacked up, and then I ended up on Saturday morning having to spend a lot of effort and time and energy into getting back to myself, back into alignment, right? But what the positive thing of all of this is what I was going to say. Earth element is very grounding. It feels very stable and safe and comforting, right? And so that's what I was going to say. Once I did all the things I needed to do, connected to the earth, cleaned my environment and myself, connected with my team, tended to my body, right? Once I did all those things, I felt amazing. And also, for those of you that experience this, you can also ask your guides. Like, one of the things I was doing when I was cleaning my energy, I was speaking out loud to my team, and I was saying, I ask for your aid and extra support and protection today. And I also knew that I was going to be filming some videos, and that means I have to tap into the energies, right? So I was asking them, and I was saying to them, please, this rest of this weekend, I only want to feel my own energy and the energies that are going to come in that are meant for me to read. Okay? And so since I spent all that time doing that, and I tended to my body, I tended to my emotional, my mental, all of it, right? I felt great. By noon yesterday, I was like, oh my gosh, what I had experienced in the morning was gone. I felt whole in my own energy, cocooned, safe, protected, and I'm still feeling that way now. So I don't even know why I'm rambling to tell you this story, but obviously it's important, probably because emotions are running high, okay? So I'm probably not the only one experiencing that. So yes, okay, so I'm hearing this is a good way to ground, right? When you're feeling that way, you need to ground. Use anything at your fingertips, use anything available to you to get feeling better, right? So I did that. I Palo Santo'd the house. I grounded. I meditated. I connected with my team. I did yoga, right? And so pretty quickly, because I was using my tools and I'm practiced at them, I was able to get right back to where I needed to be. And ever since then, I've been feeling great. I've been feeling safe and comfortable in my little cocoon. I've been very productive. And I've also had a good amount of time to rest and recover. Actually, after all of that yesterday and after yoga, the first thing I did was I started laundry and started some chores, right, that could get going. And then I went and I took a bath and I got my favorite book and I read for pleasure. Okay, so all of these things I've just mentioned are tools, and these are just tools in my toolbox that work for me, and everybody has to figure out their own tools. But by watching people like me, videos like this, talking to other people who know about energetics, that's how you learn and figure out like what works best for you. And then you create your own custom toolbox that when things aren't where they should be or in alignment, you can immediately go to that toolbox, right? And then your intuition will tell you, you need this, you need this, you need this, right? So obviously they wanted me to mention that because emotions are going to be running high during this 2-week period of energy around this full moon. And it says the end of a tough cycle approaches, which means you might not be out of it yet, right? So you might still be in the turmoil, in the chaos part of it, because you're learning that final lesson to close it up and complete that cycle. So if you start feeling scattered or chaotic or anxious or stressed, right? The best thing you can do is ground first. And then once you start feeling better enough, then, start talking to your guides, either internally or say it out loud. I say it out loud sometimes because I feel like it also helps me clear my throat chakra, right? By speaking it out, because I'm expressing my truth, I'm expressing my pain, my confusion, whatever it is. And anyway, so let's get moving because we do have a lot to go over. But obviously they wanted me to share that story. So any of the things I mentioned can help. Bath, I put essential oils in it. You can look up online what essential oils work best for whatever the issue you're having is, right? If it's anxiety, depression, overwhelm, okay? Also, crystals, grounding, going out to nature. Sometimes it's enough just to sit outside on the grass barefoot and put your feet barefoot on the ground for 20 minutes, because then you get your electromagnetic field rebalanced with the earth, and that in itself makes a huge difference of like how you feel, right? So anywho, let's keep it moving. All right, so July 3rd, full moon in Capricorn, earth energy. We've talked a lot about earth energy right now and how it feels, right? Comfortable, stable, cocooned when you're grounded, when you're doing it balanced, right? All right, so Capricorn, earth sign. This energy coming in is a time for us to reflect basically on our whole life, okay? Because we're also at the halfway point. So at the full moon, we're at the halfway point of the year, right? So now we're in the second half. And this is a great time to like check in and reflect. So it would make sense that this energy is supporting us to check in and reflect on like everything in our life right now, right? Our career, our legacy, our discipline, our sense of authority, right? This energy is very much about like self-discipline. Interesting, of course. The story I just told, it has a little bit of self-discipline in there, right? My self-discipline was out of alignment because I wasn't clearing my energy as much as I normally would. So I wasn't totally 100% in alignment in my area of self-discipline, right? I let work and external factors kind of pull me out of alignment a little bit, be as distractions, okay? And again, that's what I'm always talking about. It's up to us to notice. And what's even crazier is I did notice later through the week, towards the end of the week, I started noticing, like when I don't clear my energy enough and I'm around the collective and reading energy and things, right? That stuff, for me to read it, I have to connect to it. There's always like residual energy left over when you're connecting to energies. So I know that that's something I have to do. And and now, because I've been doing it for so many years, I can tell when I'm not doing it enough, right? My body starts to feel heavier. I start to feel a little lethargic. I start to feel aches and pains, like not horrible ones, right? But just little aches and pains that, like, for example, I have a shoulder issue. I get regular massage for it. And most of the time, because I get regular massage, it's good to go. But when I'm not doing all the things I need to be properly doing to keep everything in order, my foundation solid, that's one of the first places that starts aching. It's like I start manifesting the pain in my shoulder. And so that was happening. On Thursday and Friday of this week, I was feeling it. I was like, oh, my shoulder and my neck is feeling a little tense. And I know usually that would spark something in my mind of like, oh, you need to take a minute, clear your energy, right? But because I was letting the distractions kind of pull me a little bit, it didn't occur to me because my mind was somewhere else. I wasn't consciously, right? I was just like, oh, I wasn't consciously noticing. I was just noticing like, oh, man, I'm gonna have to do something about this. But then I just went on with what I was doing, right? We're humans, we all do it. So I now see why all of this happened, so I could talk about it, because that's something normally I'm pretty good at, self-discipline. But for whatever reason, the energies, the circumstances, my environment last week, I wasn't able to keep that self-discipline locked up and tight, right? So no big deal. I'm a human. So what happened Saturday happened. And it wasn't, some crazy traumatic thing. I just woke up Saturday morning and was like, whoa, I immediately knew. Because I just didn't feel like myself. And my body didn't feel, So I was like, and then immediately I was like, I started checking in. What's going on here, body? What's happening, right? And then I started realizing, oh, I wasn't clearing my energy enough. I need to get grounded, right? Because I started like kind of picking up on some thoughts and things that I knew were not mine. So that's when I was like, oh, okay. So this is how we do the work, right? I get it now. They just said to me a live demonstration of how to do the work, because I get it. It's hard in the beginning to know how to do the work because people don't talk about these things, and a lot of people get uncomfortable having the hard conversations about like emotions and looking in the mirror and looking at our traumas and things, right? So now I get why all of that was happening, so that I could then talk to you guys about why self-discipline and self-care are so important. Also, I was able to explain my story, which will help any of you who need it maybe figure out your own tools to clearing your energy. Okay? All right. So back to it. We're halfway through the year. This is like we said, it's a great time in our life to reflect on basically the structure of our life. What kind of structure and foundation have we built in our life? And is it what we want? Is it who we want to be? Are we happy there, right? Do we feel stable? Do we feel cocooned and comfortable and stable and confident and all those things, right? These are questions to ask, both personally and professionally, right? As humans, one thing I've observed in humans is we have this tendency to like only focus on our love life, or only focus on our career, or only focus on our family, right? And a balanced, aligned life, you have an eagle-eye view, so that you can focus on all of those things and put energy where it needs to be, right, at the time. So it doesn't have to be scary, basically, is what I'm saying. It does not have to be scary to sit down and check in with yourself, and to journal, like we've talked before on here. If you can't figure out what's going on with you, a good way is to just say out loud to the universe, I do not understand what's happening with me right now, and I would like to understand. And then just start writing without thinking. Just write whatever is coming, and then reread it, and usually you'll get some answers, because your unconscious is letting you know these things that, this is why you're in chaos. This is what you need to work on. I'm going to bring this up. Recently, a friend and I went and saw the Disney animation movie. Disney Pixar, I guess, animation movie. It's called Elementals. I highly recommend it. It's excellent. It's about, there are characters that are earth, air, fire, water. And then these characters have the qualities of each one of these elemental signs. And the character who was the fire element had a temper, okay? And just when she thinks she had it all worked out and everything under control, her temper would come out of nowhere and flare. And someone said to her in the movie, she said, I don't know why this keeps happening, right? She was like frustrated, and it kept happening, and it was causing an issue in her life, okay? It was causing an issue in her job. And she was talking to a friend, and she's like, I don't know why this keeps happening. I thought I had it under control. I thought I was ready, And interestingly enough, the character she was talking to was the water element, right? And water is all about like emotions and feelings, right? So he said, well, often when my temper comes up, I wonder, what is it trying to tell me? Okay? And then that was kind of like a theme in the movie, that anytime her temper flared up, she then was trying to like ask herself, why is this happening? Why is my temper flaring up? What, and then throughout the movie, she was figuring it out. And by the end, she had figured it out. I won't give anything away. But so that's what I'm saying. When these things are happening to us, we want to try to stay calm and not let it spin us out of control. Because if we can stay calm, it doesn't have to be as traumatic and as full of suffering as we make it as humans. And trust me, I'm saying this about myself as well. In my past, I used to make the littlest things into the biggest dramas. I am a Leo after all, right? And now I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, the extra amount of stress and anxiety I was causing myself by like reacting like outside of myself. And now I realize, oh my gosh, all that wasted energy, and all of that energy has to go somewhere. So I wasn't as healthy back then either, because my body would have to figure out what to do with all this extra emotions and energy. And it usually created dis-ease in my life, right? So anyway, So keep that in mind, okay? When your emotions are running high, I know we can't do it every time. And listen, I don't even do it every time, right? Sometimes I get caught up in it, and then later on that day, I'm like, whoa, what happened there? How did I get so spun out of control by this thing, right? And then that's how we grow, is by asking ourselves those questions. So like I'm saying, it does not have to be such a negative experience. If we can approach it with like, okay, what is my temper trying to tell me, or whatever? What is this pain trying to tell me? What is this fear or anxiety trying to tell me? If we can try to approach it in that way and in that calm manner, and I get it, it takes practice, trust me, it takes years of practice. But again, then that's how we grow and become the best version of ourselves and get in alignment, right? So this energy is coming in to help us do that, to help highlight what are our goals and dreams. Are we, like, these are questions to ask yourself during this full moon. What are my goals and dreams? Am I accomplishing them? Am I taking little steps every day towards those goals and dreams? Am I committed to doing whatever it takes to get to those goals and dreams? Am I self-sabotaging those goals and dreams? Am I running away from them? Am I fearful of them, right? These are all questions to ask while we're like doing this half-year check-in on all parts of our life, right? Now, emotions are going to be running high, and ending this cycle might be tough for some of you, okay? It might, and that doesn't mean it's not possible or not doable, because I just heard in my head somebody like, oh, well, then why bother? Because it's possible. If you believe it's possible to overcome, it is, okay? And we have to remember, just because it's tough doesn't mean we don't do it, right? It's just an obstacle, a challenge. It's a challenge the universe is presenting to us so that we like become the best version of ourselves, right? So that we grow, so that we evolve, so that we can create a less chaotic society as a whole, collective, okay? Now, this energy I wrote, yeah, which makes sense because it's earth energy, very grounding, right? This energy is about getting real. Are your goals and dreams even realistic? Have you fantasized them or romanticized them? Are you deluding yourself, right? And that's not to say that, like, okay, your dream's unrealistic, don't go for it, right? What they're saying to me now is that the reason you need to ask this question, is it unrealistic? Because you may have to add steps to your plan that make it realistic, right? So here's an example. Let's just say Joe Schmo, whoever, human, has a dream to be a nurse or doctor, okay? Is it realistic to become a nurse or a doctor? Yes, of course it is. But can you just decide one day, I'm a nurse or a doctor, and I'm going to hang up a plaque outside my door, and I'm going to start treating people because I'm a nurse? No, right? So that's not realistic. Being a nurse or a doctor is not realistic if you don't get the proper training and knowledge and education around that career, right? And then it's absolutely realistic to be a nurse or a doctor, right? So that's what they're talking about. And they wanted me to clarify this because they're saying, some humans give up completely because they're like, well, it's just not realistic that I do that. And anything is possible as long as you create the plan to get there, right? And you act on that plan and you put energy towards it every single day, right? So I wanted to point that out. Like, don't get it twisted. Okay, that's a phrase we used to say in the 90s all the time in my 20s. It's funny that I have not said that in years. Don't get it twisted, okay? So don't get it twisted. They're not saying you're being unrealistic, give up. They're saying make sure whatever your goals and dreams are in your grasp. Make sure that you create a plan that sets you up to succeed and achieve that dream or goal, right? You can't just sit on the couch and put no effort forward and complain all the time to everyone that your life's not what you think, and then expect that suddenly one day you're going to wake up or be a nurse or doctor, right? That's not realistic, okay? And so that's what they're saying. This energy is supportive of us looking at that. Are we looking at our goals and dreams realistically? Are we creating plans that are achievable? Right? Because that's another thing humans tend to do. And let me tell you, I have done it in the past. It's like, I'm going to start this thing. And instead of starting at the base level and learning, right, and building on a foundation, I'm going to go in at the very top. Yeah, and then you're going to fail, right? And so that's setting yourself up for failure. Because, again, it's just like what I was talking about. It's like you wake up one day and you walk into a hospital and you're like, hi, I am a nurse. And then they are like, oh, okay, great. And they give you the job. And then, like, your patients are dying because you're not actually a nurse and you don't actually have the knowledge you need to be a nurse, right? So I don't know why they keep over and over again, but this is, I guess it's because it's time to look at this, right? It's time to look at this. Do we set ourselves up, like, when you look at your own life, sometimes you have to be realistic and look, am I setting myself up for success or am I setting myself up for failure? Am I sabotaging maybe without even realizing it, right? So these are, again, questions to ask. Okay. Now, again, emotions are running high, okay? I just bring that up because look at what I channeled. How are you emotionally perceiving and approaching your goals and dreams? How do they feel in your body? Okay? That's another, people ask me all the time. Somebody actually said to me recently, you actually have a very strong intuition. And it's good that you do, but most of us don't, right? Because I was telling a story about a situation and that my gut feeling got me out of, right? My intuition told me, do not do this. And I didn't, and somebody I was with did, and it was a huge disaster and caused a lot of trauma. Anywho, we're not going to get into it. That's a whole other video. But anyway, so, and that's because when the opportunity was presented to me, instead of just being like, yeah, I'll do that, because it sounds good, the money sounds good, right? I sat with it for a few minutes. I breathed on it. I asked myself, body, how do you feel about this opportunity? And I got a not good feeling, right? And so then that's how I knew that is not the path for me. I'm not supposed to go down that path because it does not feel good in my body. So this is what is meant to be happening right now with this full moon, right? We're meant to, this is the halfway mark of the year. We're meant to look, are we achieving the goals and dreams we wanted to achieve this year? Are we like being realistic about those goals? How do those goals even feel? Have we checked in with ourselves to see if those goals and dreams are the right path for us, right? Because we're all programmed in this world from a very young age by our society, by our peers, by our parents, right? By our teachers, by our aunts and uncles. Like, we're all programmed. So sometimes you think you want something because you've been told your whole entire life this is what you should do, right? You're going to grow up and become a doctor. Let's just say you're going to grow up and become a doctor. You're going to grow up and become a doctor. And let's just say somebody tells you that over and over and over again. And then you tell yourself that over and over and over again. And then it comes, you go through all the schooling, right? Because you keep telling yourself, I'm going to be a doctor, I'm going to be a doctor. And then it comes time to actually be a doctor. And you're like, I don't think I like being a doctor. This is not where my passion lies. Right? That is what I'm talking about. If we stop along the way to check in with ourselves and ask, how do I feel about being a doctor? Our intuition will guide us, right? And it can save us years and years of struggle on the wrong path. So this is what this full moon's about, right? This energy is like, excuse my language, no bullshit kind of energy, okay? It does not beat around the bush. It's going to be blunt. It's probably going to show you things in your life that might be hard to reconcile, accept, or deal with, right? But as long as we acknowledge the things about ourselves, that's the first step to then accepting those things about ourselves. And then the next step is loving those things about ourselves, right? Because there are some qualities you just can't, you're always going to have it to some degree, right? Because we came here to have lessons, and some people chose anger, some people chose greed, some people chose being selfless, right? There's like a million different lessons humans choose to come to Earth to learn, and we often make it harder than it needs to be and traumatize ourselves by resisting, by refusing to see the signs or listen to it, right? We've talked before on this channel about what started me off on this, what really, I guess it didn't start me off, but it really spurred me forward on this journey was my divorce. And I knew in my gut for the last 2 years of my marriage, I needed to get a divorce. But I was ignoring it. I knew it with every part of myself. I would even have thoughts and conversations about it in my head. Like, well, how would I even go about this? How do we start splitting stuff up? Do I get a lawyer, right? All these things. And because my intuition and everything in my life was pointing that I needed to be on a different path than this person, right? And I knew it was going to be hard, so I ignored it for 2 years. I was just like, I kept making excuses. It'll be fine. Things are going to get better. Sorry, I have a hair tickling me. Anyway, and what ended up happening is I ended up getting very, very sick with some female issues. I had to have multiple surgeries, and that kind of forced me to take stock of my life. Like, how did I end up here? What is happening, right? And I've also mentioned on this channel before probably that it's been 12 years and I've never again had another female problem or had any issue with my health. Okay? So the universe, okay, will make you as miserable as it needs to make you, and it will make your life and your surroundings as chaotic as it needs to get you to move. Okay? And that is my example of it. I had to get so sick. My body was crippled. I was sick. I had to, for months, I had to deal with this. We had to have surgery, all these things. Okay? And at the end of all of it, I was like, because it was such a not great experience to then go through all that stress with a spouse who I was not meant to be with, right? It just made things worse and worse and worse. And it got to this point where it's like, I just could not deny it anymore. I could not continue to lie to myself that like, it's all going to be okay, right? Marriage is hard. Yes, marriage is hard, but this was different. So I had to then act. And once I took action and did what I needed to do and got myself on the right path and started integrating and healing and following my intuition and my guidance, my life has never been better. I've had like a 12-year period of growth. Don't get me wrong. There have definitely been challenges and struggles, but I've also had a lot of growth. I've never been happier. I've not had any more of that particular illness that was going on the entire 6 years, 7 years of my relationship with that man. So this is what I'm talking about. This energy that's coming in, it is not going to mess around. It is blunt. It is not going to beat around the bush. And it's going to do what it needs to do to show you the things you need to see in your life to get to the next level, to the next step, right? Because it never ends. Nobody is ever going to be like, okay, I'm done growing. I've graduated. I mean, you shouldn't, because we're always growing and learning, right? So, and there's always like a next level of learning, a deeper level of understanding. It's like an onion, right? There's more layers. So the energy will come in and give you what it needs to give you. It will give you the hard truths it needs to give you so that you will take the next step of growth and go to the next level, right? So, so this energy is going to highlight the foundation or lack thereof of our own individual's life structure. Okay? It's time to step into our sense of authority without hesitation. It's time to be the master of our own lives, right? If we're doing things for other people, like, I don't really want to do this, but so-and-so wants me to do it, so I'm going to do it. Nope, not going to work anymore, right? This is not really where my passion lies, but I'll disappoint my mom if I don't become a doctor, right? Nope, not going to work anymore. Okay, none of this is going to work anymore. It is now time for humans to step into their power, take control and authority over their own life, and heal. Or don't heal. But you can't be like, it's done blaming external people, right? It's time for us to take responsibility, get self-disciplined, start dealing with the things we need to deal with, start healing the things, start facing the things. Whatever that means for you, your intuition will tell you, whether it means therapy, whether it means journaling, whether it means, there's a million things. You have to listen to yourself, right? And I want to remind everyone, it's always, always good to sleep on it. Especially if you're someone, when I'm talking about being connected to intuition, if you feel like, that is just not me. How do I get connected? I am not connected to myself. If you're somebody that feels like that, you want to definitely sleep on it, because your connection and your messages and your intuition is going to try to speak to you through dreams. That's how it starts, right? And it always continues in your dreams, but like, that's where it really gets started. So if you are somebody who doesn't know what your intuition is telling you, or you feel confused, you need to sleep on it. Sleep on decisions. Sleep on the questions, right? Another good thing to do is like, ask yourself, listen, I'm an artist, and sometimes in my job, I'm a commercial artist, right? So sometimes in my job, I just can't quite solve the problem of what the client, because the client will come to you and say, we need this, whatever it is. We need a brochure, we need an ad, we need a poster, we need a drawing, we need to put whatever it is. And it needs to do these 4 things, right? It needs to create excitement. It needs to stick the name of the thing in the human's brain, right? And like, whatever. Clients, they always have goals. This is what I want this to achieve. And sometimes I have trouble getting my artistic vision to align up with what the client is actually paying me to do. And, you know, this is part of the job, right? Like, no job is always going to be easy all the time. And sometimes things just come to me and it all works out and it's all aligned and I'm like, brilliant, right? Successful, good to go. Other times I have to work a little harder at it. And so sometimes what I'll do if I'm struggling with that, getting my vision of what I see it being to align with what the client actually is asking for and paying me to do, I will take a pad of paper. I have like an artistic journal I keep on my bed. And then I'll ask myself, before I go to bed, I'll say to myself, what am I not what am I missing to tie all this together and get this creative to align? And then I go to bed. And then usually what happens is between 3 or 5 in the morning, I wake up and I know immediately what I need to do. Sometimes I've even gotten up and gone straight to my desk and started sketching out what it is. So you can do that as well. If you don't feel connected, these questions we're talking about, right, to ask yourself, you can ask yourself before you go to bed, when you get like calm and you're about to go to sleep, the TV's off and it's quiet, you say, and what are my goals? Or am I achieving to my highest ability? Whatever the question is. And then go to bed. And I guarantee you'll either wake up in the middle of the night or you'll wake up in the morning with an answer, or at least a breadcrumb that will lead you to the answer. Okay? And so that's why it's important to keep something by your bed, because when you wake up, you can jot down what's happening, what's coming in, the answers you're getting, the sketch, the images, whatever it is, and then you can put it down and go back to sleep. And then it's there for you in the morning to reflect on and try to get deeply into to understand, right? Okay? So, now, listen, earlier, I gave the nurse doctor example, right? Are your goals realistic, right? It's not realistic to just be like, I'm going to be a nurse and walk in a hospital and be a nurse, okay? So the other thing that this energy is about is it's time for us, like, if you don't know, if you want to be good at something, or you want to understand something, or you want to do something in your life, right, that you aren't sure how to do, part of taking authority and control of your life is like seeking that information out. Don't wait. Like I said, nobody's going to come to your house and knock on the door and be like, do you want to be a nurse? Here's all the information you need to be a nurse, right? That's just not going to happen. So if you want to be a nurse, or fill in the blank, whatever it is, right? I don't know why I keep using doctor and nurse as an example, but that's just what keeps coming. Maybe somebody out there is struggling with that particular topic. Anyway, then take it upon yourself. Seek out the information, right? Research it, read, learn it, integrate it. We know in this society, to be a nurse or a doctor, you have to have certain certifications, right? So go out, get those certifications, become the expert you look to, right? We're kind of at this place in the world where it's time for humans to stop looking to everyone else to solve their problems, right? It's time for us to start looking to ourselves. And if you don't know how to solve your problem, then it's your business to figure out how to solve your problem, right? That means read, go to the library, go to Google, go to the bookstore, read a book while you're at the bookstore having coffee, buy a book, go to the library, check out, you know what I mean? Become an expert on what it is you are looking to others for. Because then, when you are doing that, and when you're knowledgeable, one, it gives you confidence. Two, it keeps you in alignment, because nobody can convince you of anything, right? If you have the knowledge, then you can't be, gullible is the word, or tricked, right? No one can con you or mislead you if you've done your own research and homework and you've learned for yourself, right? It's like, okay, here's an example. I help the monarch butterflies. I've talked about it before on this channel, because they're they're endangered species. So I planted a ton of milkweed in my yard, right? And I have read a ton about monarchs and the monarch caterpillars and their needs to like make it through the whole process and become a butterfly. I have watched documentaries on them, right? Because if I want to help try to save the butterflies, I need to learn as much as I can about the butterflies, right? And the other day, one of my neighbors was like, oh, I can tell you some stuff I know. And he starts telling me stuff that I know is inaccurate because I've done my homework, right? And so he was telling me this, they'll eat any plant. I said, no, that's actually not correct. And he was like, no, it is. I said, no, it's actually not. I've read several books on it, and I just watched a documentary, and I recommended the documentary to him. I was like, please go check it out. And I was like, but they talk about that specifically the monarch caterpillar only will eat milkweed, period. Okay? And so that's what I'm talking about. Like, I'm not going to be misinformed with misinformation because I've already done my own research and I know what the facts are. Okay? So this energy is like pushing us to create our own life structure and our own routines of things we need, our own toolbox, by relying on self, right? Like, I get we all watch these videos, we all come to others for advice, and that's totally okay. But what I'm saying is, like I've talked about before, I have figured out, I had depression for years and years and years. I spent years in therapy, and I had to figure out for myself a plan, a life structure that I could work within to keep my depression managed. And then I had a friend who was also struggling with depression, and I was like, oh, here is a list of all the things I do that help me. Start doing these things, you'll be fine. And she wasn't fine because those were things that worked for me, not for her, right? So she needed, and she did eventually, go to therapy herself, get to know her own self, okay? Emotions are running high. Once she got to know her own self, then she started realizing and reading the energy and the signs in her life, and then now she understands, and she has her own toolbox. And some of our tools are similar, and some of them are completely different. So that's what I'm talking about. Like, if you're looking to somebody else to tell you exactly what to do to like grow and evolve and heal, you're gonna be struggling because nobody else can tell you what to do for you. Only your intuition, your spiritual team, your higher self can do that, right? And that's why it's so important that we connect to ourselves, because without connection to ourselves, there's no guidance, right? Look at, sadly, I've had experience with addiction in my environment for many years, and in a few people around me, and everyone, like, one of them is a familial situation, right? So then everyone in the family is like, why can't this person just get it together? Why can't they just like stop? Why can't, right? And it's because they're so numb, that they're so disconnected from themselves, that they have no idea which direction to go. So every day they get up and the life is just in chaos. And no one seems to understand. They're like, why can't he just like, because He has to take the time to get to know himself, to stop running from himself, to stop numbing all his feelings. And until he does that, nobody can do that for him. And we could give him, matter of fact, he's been sent into several rehabs over like 2 decades. And none of them have worked, because you have to want to get better and you have to figure out what works for you, right? When you go to rehab, it's the same thing. They give you, here are some ideas and some tools, but you have to do the work and then figure out what works best for you. But he's not willing to do that. So then he'll say, well, the things they tell me to do are stupid and I'm not doing, you know? And so then it's been this vicious cycle for literally like 3 decades now. So it's heartbreaking to watch, but nobody else can force their tools or their healing and journey of plan of steps on him, because it won't work. He needs to figure out for himself what he wants and needs and what his goal, right? So that's just something we need to remember, is that it's time for us, like, there's no more grace period. It's time for us to start doing the work and figuring this stuff out individually. And it is okay to ask for help, to look to others like therapists, people, teachers, gurus. That's okay. But as long as you're doing the individual work and trying to integrate. I've run across a few people over the years that just like watch hundreds of YouTube videos on growth and they do nothing to actually grow. And then they're like, this isn't working. None of this stuff works and I'm not healing because I've watched hundreds of videos. And it's like, okay, watching the videos is just not enough. All right? You actually have to take action. You actually have to ground, connect with nature, connect with yourself, start to get to know yourself, start to understand. And that's what this energy coming in is going to force humans to do right now, okay? The last couple of months we've talked about there's no more grace period. There is not. And like I said earlier, this work does not have to be full of suffering and trauma if you approach it with the right attitude. Okay? Now, we already talked about that. Oh, it gives you a sense of stability when you, like I was talking about, you research, you read, you learn, you integrate. When you do that, it gives you a sense of comfort and stability, because like I said, when I was talking with my neighbor about the butterflies and he was giving me all kinds of misinformation, it made me feel more stable to know that like I actually researched it and got the proper facts. So I'm just not out here spouting misinformation to people, right? So that's kind of where we're at. Okay, this full moon is encouraging us to discern between what is safe and reassuring versus what are the structures and systems that we live in. Okay, this energy is going to force us in our own life, not just in our own life individually, but also as a collective. It's going to force us to look at, like, who do we want to be versus what we've created, right? And it's time for us to create systems in our life that are stable, that build foundations that we can build upon, okay? We have to start building structures and systems that serve us and serve us growing into the best version of ourselves, right? We already talked about self-sabotage. Okay, so what comes with discernment is boundaries, right? Because when you're discerning, like, this is not healthy for me, this is healthy for me, that means then you're gonna have to put a boundary down here, right? This person is constantly like, whatever, toxic, picking a fight with me, pushing my buttons on purpose to create conflict, right? And then you have to decide, Is that what's best for me and my growth and my peace of mind moving forward? Probably not. So you're going to have to set a boundary. Sometimes you have to set boundaries with the people around you, with the things around you. That goes with like, do you spend too much time on watching television? Do you spend too much time on your device, on your iPad, on your iPhone, on your computer, whatever? Do you drink too much? Do you do too many drugs, right? This is all about like setting boundaries so that we can build strong foundations and healthier systems and structures that work with us for our highest good, that help us grow, that help us evolve, instead of keeping us, right? We have a lot of systems in the world right now that keep us stuck. And a lot of us individually also have beliefs, patterns, and thoughts that keep them stuck. Right? I also had a bunch of those. And I've spent years in therapy deprogramming and purging out some of those thoughts, patterns, and beliefs that were not good for me, that limited me, that kept me stuck, that kept me from growing, that kept me from happiness. Right? And until we start doing that and setting boundaries, even with ourselves, right? Like, here's an example. I have a friend who, and this is a self-discipline boundary, right? Who says, I will never have a drink of alcohol alone, right? Because that person knows themselves well enough to know that that might be a slippery slope. If they're sat in alone and drinking, it could be a problem for them. So they have set a rule that I will only drink in social situations. That's a boundary. That's a self-discipline boundary, right? I have a rule for myself because I find it very rude when you're sitting in a room full of people and you're trying to have conversations, and the person you're trying to have a conversation with the whole time is like on their phone. Like that, I find that very rude. I find it very disrespectful to not give reciprocal energy to the people you're in the room with. So I have a rule for myself. That is, if I'm in a room with other people, I will not be on my phone. Obviously, if there's an emergency or whatever, that's an extreme case. But I'm just saying, if I'm in a room full of other people, I've set a boundary for myself that I'm not going to be on any of my devices because it's not, I feel like it's discourteous and rude. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. This is what this full moon energy is about. It's going to be about us getting more self-discipline, figuring out how to create better foundations and systems and structures in our own lives that help us move forward, right? So the energy this full moon is going to be very validating. It will validate you, and there will be signs everywhere that give you confirmation if you're taking action in your life to better yourself. If you're not, if you're somebody who's not doing the work and just says you are, or just watches it, like if you're somebody who is not every single day working on yourself in some capacity, even if that's just like taking a walk outside and connecting with nature, taking 10 extra minutes off your phone to connect with your children, right? Whatever it is, if you're not taking action to make these little shifts in your life every day, this full moon is going to be a struggle for you. It's going to be rough. But that's also a way to gauge where you're at, right? If you're having a rough time during this full moon, then you know, I'm not doing enough work. I'm not actively putting enough energy towards growth and being the best version of myself and healing all of my traumas, right? So, yeah, if you're not actively moving forward and growing at this time, it's going to feel like your entire universe is like in chaos around you. So that's a sign, okay? If you're watching this and I'm talking to you and you feel like you're in mostly chaos in your life, that is a sign. It's time for you to start doing the work. It's time for you to put more energy towards growth, towards integrating your shadow, towards accepting, acknowledging, accepting, integrating, and loving your shadow. Okay? If you need help with that, there is a shadow work playlist on my channel, and there are several videos, and I'm always adding videos. As soon as this video is done filming, I'm going to film a two-part series on how to develop discernment. Because that's also, I mentioned this earlier, right? This energy is coming in. This is very blunt, not beating around the bush energy. It's coming in to force us to discern. Where in my life is not working? Where is my foundation crumbling or falling down? Or is there a foundation at all? Okay? So I've also been called to create 2 videos. It'll be 2 parts, how to develop your discernment. So they will also be on this channel. They will be in the growth playlist. So please check them out if you think you need help figuring out or developing discernment. Okay? Let's see what else. Okay. So earlier I was saying about like how I ended up getting sick because I was ignoring my intuition and what I knew I needed to do, right? And I said, the universe will make you as miserable as it needs to get you to move and take some kind of action to better yourself, right? So my therapist said something to me once, which I think is a great phrase, and I wrote it down, and I wanted to talk about that because it has to do with what I'm saying. The universe will, do what it has to do to make you move. When I first started therapy, I had a lot of resistance, right? As most of us do. And whenever my therapist would suggest, try this, try that, I always had an excuse, right? Well, I can't do that because of this. Well, I can't do that because of this, right? And she said to me one day, people change when the pain of change is less than the pain of staying the same. And I was like, holy moly, that's brilliant. Right? Because it's true. We will stay stuck in the most miserable situation because we're so afraid. And I did it. I stayed stuck in a horrible situation and marriage with an abuser who, because I felt like it's going to be too difficult to we owned property together. We had a whole friend group together, right? Literally we met in our friend group. So when we split up, sadly, our whole entire friend group kind of went all their separate ways because we weren't together anymore and people picked sides, right? So that's why it took me so long to make a move towards what was best for me, was because I was all of the stuff I'm going to have to go through to split everything up and to separate from this person, it's going to be too hard. But then what ended up happening was I ended up in all of that sickness, getting surgery, right? And that was just such a miserable, unenjoyable experience that I was like, I have to get a divorce because there's nothing that could be worse than what I just went through, right? So, and she was right. I changed when I felt like staying the same was getting worse than the pain of splitting everything up and getting lawyers and all that, right? And it didn't turn out to be the change was not as hard as I thought it was. And then once I started changing, I was thriving, and I was like, oh my gosh, why didn't I do this sooner, right? So that's just a really good phrase. I'm going to say it again. People change when the pain of change is less than the pain of staying the same. Brilliant. All right. Now, Emotions are running high. Okay? End of a tough cycle. The very last thing I channeled was, it's time to grow and mature in our emotional body. How are your life structures, and your life structure is your behaviors, your patterns, and your thoughts. Okay? How are your life structures inviting your emotions to grow and mature? So that's another question you need to ask during all of this. When you're assessing everything in your life, you need to ask yourself, like, am I doing things that keep me from growing? Am I doing things that keep me, right? Like a pretty direct example is like the example with my family member. Am I doing things that keep me from growing and moving forward? Yes. What are those things? Drugs and alcohol is one of them, is two of them, right? So that's a good place to start. So this is just an example of how it, so am I doing things that block me from growing and maturing in my emotional body? That's a good question to ask yourself. And then whatever those things are, those are things you need to start working on, right? Those are things you need to start shifting. All right? Now, this energy, it would also be a really good time to like get your star chart read, because I've had my star chart read. I am going to do a video on this coming soon in the shadow work series. But the energy right now is very supportive of this because of all this like support to get our emotions under control and feel how do things feel in our body and all of that, right? So us getting your star chart gives you a very good understanding of like what elements are within you and what like your emotion code is, kind of. Okay, there's also a book called The Emotion Code. Is something good to get and read. Okay, we're gonna pull some crystal cards. We're gonna read from the Moonology. We're gonna read from the book, and then we're gonna wrap it up. I know this has been a long one today. I appreciate you guys hanging in. They had a lot to say. Let's start. We'll read the Moonology, right? Full moon in Capricorn first. Capricorn is the goat, by the way. Okay. How hard are you willing to work for what you want? This card is reminding you that effort is required. Work issues may be about to come to a head. If you are wondering if you should stay in your job or leave your job, this card could be a strong sign to go within and find your proper path. The end of a rough time is forecast. This card also asks you to consider how ambitious are you, and are you prepared to pull out all the stops to make your dreams come true? This card is a call to face reality. Make a plan and work the plan. This card is about a very strong work ethic and energy, and more than likely will come when you're asking questions about your career. If your question is not about your career, this energy serves as a much needed reminder to move through any feelings of hopelessness you may have been feeling about your situation. Making a plan is a far better of your time. Making a plan is a far better use of your time. I mean, that just basically wraps up everything I had just talked about, right? Let's read this supermoon card. This card suggests that the answer to whatever you're asking is writ largely like the silvery full moon set against the velvety sky. The answers are always under your nose. Tune into yourself and work with your energies, and you can expect plenty of good things and positive outcomes. But there will also be emotions to deal with too. The supermoon takes place when the moon is at its closest point to the earth during its monthly orbit. The moon appears around 14% bigger for a full moon. This supermoon is known as the Queen of Emotions. You can expect your emotions to come up and demand attention during this time. All right? Now, let's also see. Mix these two. Oh no, they're not the same size, so I can't. Okay, so these are both crystal decks. I'm being called to pull from both of them. So let's see. What crystal will be helpful during this super full moon in Capricorn? Crystal or crystals? Okay. And then from this deck, crystal or crystals? Will be good for this super full moon. All right, and then they said one more from over here. Okay, so we have moonstone, turquoise, obsidian. All right, let's see. I should have here to show you. Maybe not. Okay, well, this is obsidian. Obsidian. I mean, everybody knows what turquoise looks like, right? It's bright blue. I don't have any turquoise here. And I had, oh yeah, here. I was like, I know I have moonstone here. And then this is moonstone. Okay. So, moonstone, turquoise, and obsidian will help during this full moon. And let's read from Magic Days for July 3rd. Okay, welcome to July 3rd, a fateful journey that asks you to surrender your present circumstances. Go your own way today, rather than mimicking popular opinion. Autonomy encourages you to follow your intuition as you trailblaze new paths of self-realization. While it's scary to make things up as you go, trust that the answers lie inside of you. What would you do if you didn't have to ask anyone for permission? Look within your heart rather than to your ego for answers, because vulnerability prefers you to be soft rather than guarded. Cancer season heightens your sense of emotional awareness anyway, so act upon your innermost feelings without hesitation. Tell someone how you feel or pursue the creative project you've always wanted to express. And above all else, take things as they come. Impertinence reminds you that everything in life is temporary. So whether you are riding a high or enduring a low, try to make peace with your current circumstances. Oftentimes, it's easier to flow rather than to fight the winds of fate. So surrender the day's outcome to a power greater than yourself. I mean, it's a nice little paragraph that pretty much just wrapped up everything I said in this video. Okay, today's mantra. I will move to the beat of my heart today while leaving the outcome up to fate. Journal prompt. If I were to listen to my innermost feelings, what would I want to pursue today? Today's ritual. Take a ride today in a car or on a bike or just in your mind. As you are moving through the twists and turns of the road, repeat the affirmation. I can't see the turns up ahead, but I trust that I am on my way to my own destiny. Ooh, that's good. I can't see the turns up ahead, but I trust that I am on my way to my destiny. All right, guys, we're going to leave it there. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. And honor the light and the shadow. The light and the shadow. Oh, geez. Okay. Well, we're not going to wrap it up just quite yet. I just got called to pull one of these Oracle of the Radiant Sun. When I said honor your light, literally the deck of cards was like, I have something to say. All right, one card, please, for the supermoon, full supermoon in Capricorn. Nope. Okay. I was like, man, that was fast. There it is. All right. Inspiration. Okay. Let's read it quickly. Inspiration. Sorry, the way this deck is in the book is a little confusing. So it takes me a minute to find. There's like 4 sections and then I have to figure out what, there it is. Inspiration. All right. It says, this card indicates an extremely vivid imagination that finds it easy to visualize thoughts and ideas and reveals a personality type with a natural ability to please others. Highly intuitive, almost telepathic on the unconscious level. People with this combination have an imaginative talent that could be profitable in creative or artistic worlds. Many writers and creative artists have this ability to add imaginatively to the world around them. They arrive at conclusions through intuitive perception rather than logical reasoning, like a psychic sponge soaking up the feelings and thinking of others. You may have a tendency to be secretive about your inner thoughts and ideas, and an excessive use of the natural ability to dwell on fantasies may lead to flights of neurotic escapism. But putting this ability to imaginative use can positively affect them and others. You have a constant, fertile mind that can jump from one fantastic idea to the next with ease. Ideal for storytelling or when one needs to tune into thoughts and needs of others. This card shows that there is an instinctive answer and it will open up in your own inner vision. This card indicates we all already know the answers within us, but we're refusing to face up to it. Okay? So this card has come out at the very end. It is either a message for someone watching that it's time for you to add creativity into your life structure. It is also a message for somebody watching that you're avoiding facing something you know you need to face. All right, now we're going to leave it there. Thank you guys for watching. Honor your shadow self. Honor your light self. Find the balance within. Love all parts of yourself. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for watching.